Hey guys, we are here in Folsom, California.
Folsom State Prison is a California state prison in Folsom, California, in the United States. Approximately 20 miles northeast of the state capital of Sacramento, it is one of the 34 adult institutions operated by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. The prison has a rich history going back to 1868, when the Board of Prison Directors selected Folsom as the site for a second prison. On July 26, 1880, the first 44 incarcerated people were transferred from San Quentin, but just 17 years later, it housed 900 incarcerated people. While the site was chosen, construction didn't begin until 1874, as problems between the state and the construction contractor stalled progress, until a new contractor name in the 162 Cell B block was completed in 1878. This was followed by the 166 Cell A block building being completed 2 years later. The unique design put both buildings inside of another building without cells touching exterior walls. The cells measured 8 feet by 7 feet were secured with solid iron doors. To allow more airflow, 6 ventilation holes were drilled into the bottom portion of each door. Cells offered no heat or plumbing, while light was provided by an oil lamp. The walls. Originally, the prison was surrounded by towers with no walls, allowing an unobstructed view of prisoners as they worked. The prison yard sat on 52 acres of mostly high ground. In 1893, after visiting the prison, Folsom Telegraph editor Thaddeus McFarland gave his seal of approval. It took more than 4 decades for the prison to be surrounded by solid walls. By 1905, biennial report on the State Board of Charities and Corrections chastised the prison leaders for the delays. So by 1909, construction on the wall was underway and was completed in 1923. Dam and electricity. The American River provided a natural barrier for the prison while also supplying power and a way to transport logs from upriver. Gaining control of the Natoma Water and Mining Company, Horatio Gates Livermore and his family in 1866 decided to dam the river. This was part of Livermore's long-range plans to transform the town of Folsom into a manufacturing center. Logging began in June 1890, and a year later, the first log reached the prison dam. Running into difficulty with the rocky bottom of the river, Livermore sought to use the canal running alongside the prison to allow the logs to continue their journey downriver. Prison officials were reluctant to adjust the gates at the canal for fear it would interfere with power generation. Central to the plan was a dam of granite and concrete to provide a still pond to hold logs floated down from Livermore's logging operation. From the dam, a 40-foot canal followed downstream for 1.5 miles, creating an 80-foot fall of water to generate power. Folsom Prison was the first prison in the nation to have electric power, which was provided by the first hydroelectric powerhouse in California. The dam construction began in 1867 but ran into trouble. They looked to the prison for labor, offering land near the prison as compensation. Construction of the present-day Folsom Dam and Power Plant just upriver from the prison was completed in 1956 by the Army Corps of Engineers. The first warden. During its early years, Folsom Prison had 2 temporary wardens. The first official warden was Charles Ohl, appointed in 1887. Hall was known for being strict but also had innovative ideas to improve the prison. He is known to bring recreation to the incarcerated. He was no stranger to law enforcement and corrections, having served as captain of turnkeys at San Quentin as well as Stanislaus County Deputy Sheriff. From the moment he took office, Hall instituted a system of discipline unequal to any penal institution in the Union. Folsom Prison is the dread of evildoers in the state, and yet prisoners were treated with the utmost kindness. Some of the most desperate criminals have been given into discharge, but seldom were the rules broken. Starting in 1894, he organized baseball teams with games being played on Saturday, Sundays, and the holidays. He served in the post for nearly 12 years until he fell ill. Seriously ill for weeks, Hall was brought to San Francisco's Grand Hotel so he could be closer to his physicians. He died the following year after having suffered for months with the disease of the kidneys, according to news reports. First hanging. After the state of California took sole control of the death penalty in 1891, executions were held at Folsom and San Quentin. A total of 93 prisoners were hanged at Folsom Prison between December 13, 1895 to December 3, 1937. Subsequent executions were carried out in the gas chambers at San Quentin. The prison's first hanging occurred in December 13, 1895, when Chen Hain was hanged by the neck until dead at 10 a.m. The public was invited to witness the execution. In 1892, Hain was accused of murdering Li Gong, even though witnesses stated they saw Li Sam shoot Gong. Another said they thought Gong had been shot through a window while sitting at the desk. Escape attempts. Prior to the completion of its granite wall in the 1920s, the prison saw numerous escape attempts. The first occurred shortly after the first inmate first arrived in the 1880s. Throughout Folsom's violent and bloody history, numerous riots and escape attempts have resulted in both inmate and staff deaths. In 1920, 3 convicts hijacked a prison train that was used to move materials and smashed it through a prison gate to escape. On June 16, 1932, Dwight E. Abbott escaped from Folsom by making a lifelike dummy. The dummy was cleverly made to look real enough with Abbott's own hair to fool the guards until late the next day. An inmate, Carl Reese, tried to escape in 1932 using a diving suit fashioned from a football bladder, a goggle lens, and other materials. The inmate made only one mistake. He did not make his breathing tube long enough and ended up drowning in the powerhouse mill pond. Guards had to drain the pond to recover the inmate's body. On September 19, 1937, approximately 40 inmates had been waiting to talk to Warden Clarence Larkin concerning upcoming parole hearings, when 7 of the inmates suddenly attacked him. They took him into the yard and other guards started firing. In the commotion that followed, Officer Harry Martin and Warden Larkin were both stabbed to death. Officer Martin died at the scene, while Warden Larkin died of his wounds 5 days later. 2 of the escaping inmates were fatally shot during the incident. The remaining 5 were all sentenced to death and eventually executed in late 1938. Inmate Glenn Stewart Godwin's notable escape earned him a spot on the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. Authorities believe Godwin's wife Shelley Rose Godwin and his former cellmate and dual Vocational Institute Lawrence Carlick helped to plan his successful escape from Folsom. A hacksaw and other tools had been smuggled into the prison for Godwin. On June 5, 1987, he cut a hole through the fence wire and escaped into a storm drain that emptied into the American River. One of his accomplices had left a raft that Godwin used to float down the river, following painted arrows on rocks that directed him where to go. Godwin was arrested in Mexico in 1991 but escaped again from a prison in Guadalajara in September of that year and remains at large. Two minimum security inmates, Jeffrey William Howard and Garrett Daniel Summit, escaped from Folsom Prison on October 19, 2010. And they only say that the two men fled from the prison's minimum support facility, and that the escape was discovered when the two failed to report to their work areas. They were apprehended in Inglewood, California on November 22 of the same year. On October 26, 2017, inmate Todd Willis walked away at about 8 a.m. from a minimum security housing facility at the prison. 5 days later, an off-duty officer was driving through Rancho Cordova when she spotted him. Police were notified and Willis was quickly apprehended. Women. Only 6 women were ever housed at Folsom Prison. The first one was received in November 1885 and the last one in 1929. A Folsom Women's Facility was activated in 2013 and is a standalone facility that is run under the administration of Folsom State Prison. Ventures. The first ICE shift from Folsom Prison was on January 1894. The prison's ICE plant was so successful that the state legislature appropriated $162,000 for purchasing additional ice-making machinery. The plant is credited with contributing to the development of California's fruit-growing industry, making it possible for the fruit to be transported to markets throughout the United States. The prison industries also include metal fabrication and a print shop. And the quarry at Folsom Prison provided granite for the foundation of the state capitol building and much of the gravel used in the early construction of California's roads. Also, California's vehicle license plates have been manufactured at the prison since 1947. Popular media. Singer Johnny Cash made Folsom State Prison widely known to the outside world through his song Folsom Prison Blues of 1956, which narrated a fictional account of an outlaw's incarceration, and through the 2 live concerts he performed at the prison. The first was in 1966, and the more famous held on January 13, 1968 in the prison cafeteria, and was recorded as the album at Folsom Prison. Cash later said that the prison inmates were the most enthusiastic audience he ever played at. The Folsom Prison Blues single from that album was #1 on the country music chart for 4 weeks, and the album was on the top 200 pop album chart for 122 weeks. Folsom Prison also has been a location of a number of feature films, including The Work, Riot in Cell Block 11, Convicts 4, American Me, The Jericho Mile, Another 48 Hours, Digstown, parts of the movie Walk the Line, and Inside the Walls of Folsom Prison. As of April 30, 2020, Folsom State Prison's main facilities were incarcerating people at 130.4% of the design capacity, with 2,694 occupants. And the women's facilities were incarcerating people at 68.5% of the design capacity, with 276 occupants. Overall, Folsom Prison holds importance due to its historical significance, cultural representation, and impact on the understanding of the criminal justice system. It continues to be a symbol for discussions on prison reform and the treatment of inmates. And since it's still an active prison, there is a museum outside its walls where you can visit. We'll be checking it out on our next video. So if you want to know more about it, check out the description below for the link.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoy our tour of the Folsom State Prison. Till next time, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and comment. Bye.
So guys, if you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and feel free to comment.
Hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell. Come on guys, hit the bell.